So this week we're going to continue with Galatians 6:1. We're going to carry it a little bit further out into verses 1 through 3. And I'm just going to read the verse to you again. It says, "Brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch that you also may be tempted. If anyone thinks they're something when they are not, they deceive themselves." So this week we'll continue with the discourse of last week, but we'll look at the other side of the verse that we talked about. So last week we talked about Christians who are caught in sin and what our response should be towards them. This week we'll talk about what our response should be towards ourselves. There's a warning in this verse that tells us to watch ourselves, or we may also be tempted. So what this means is there's a danger in going into a fire to drag someone else out. There's also a danger in walking into someone else's sin to pull them out. We're responsible for each other. I know I said that last week, but we're most responsible for ourselves. We have to be careful about falling into sin because in Romans, Paul talks about his sin nature, and he says, "I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out." In other words, we're responsible for each other insofar as we're able to be responsible for ourselves. So if we're finding ourselves caught in a sin, then how are we ever going to be able to help someone else out of their sin? How is that possible? For example, if you have a friend and you know your friend struggles with this specific thing, and you find that this specific thing is something that you also struggle with fairly regularly, then I don't recommend that you be the person to try and help him or restore him. On the surface, you may think that it's logically a good idea because, hey, he's having the same problem that I'm having, and we can help each other out, and we can be each other's, stronghold. We can make sure that the other person doesn't fall. But what's really going to happen is you're both going to end up in the same sinkhole. You're both going to end up falling in the same sin. On the other hand, if your friend has a problem that has nothing to do with your problem, if it's completely different, then you absolutely are responsible for helping him, and you can help him. You're much less likely to be tempted by his sin because you don't struggle the same. There's also another warning in the end of this verse, and it's this: if anyone thinks they're something when they are not, they deceive themselves. What this says is, don't be prideful when you're helping someone. Don't start thinking that you're better than them just because your struggle looks different. If you think that you're better than you are, you're lying to yourself. We all have struggles, and I think this is a lot of where the outside world gets its view on Christianity, or its perception of the way Christians behave. We're being unauthentic. We're not being real with our sin. We don't show people how messed up we are. And when we're putting up a front like that, or we're acting less broken than someone else, then that's fake. And that makes people feel put off or turned off. And that's not helpful for anyone. And our goal should always be to help others.